Hi, this is Kyle Shwarber, and welcome to the Phillies Show.
Hey, everybody. How you doing? Ruben Amaro Jr.'s in the house. Jim Salisbury's in the house. I'm here. The Phillies Show, Friday, October 18th, 2024. Guys, it's been more than a week since the Phillies season ended. Dave Dombrowski and Rob Thomson talked on Tuesday. We hashed that out on Wednesday, and then we asked for your questions. And oh my gosh, look at all these questions. I printed out almost every question we got. Well, we will not be able to get to all these. We got questions on X, YouTube, Instagram.
Nice.
The tone, fellas, the tone of these questions is a little down, a lot of frustration in some of these questions.
Is it a little aggressive?
Some of them are aggressive. Some of them are aggressive. A couple choice words were used in some of these questions. I hope they weren't directed at us. I think it was just the overall frustration of the thing. And so we want to mention Shibe Vintage Sports. Get your unique throwback Phillies tees, hats, and sweatshirts from their local artists at their shops in Center City, Wayne, and Westchester, and at shibesports.com. We're sporting our gear today. As always, we love it at Shibe. Let's jump right in. The first question, probably about 6 or 7 people asked this question. So I'm just going to pick one person, Linda Plolello on YouTube. Why not put Trey Turner in left field? If the team wants, let's start with that. Why not put Turner in left field? Also had some people say, why not put him in center field? Why keep him at shortstop? He was asked, Dave Dombrowski was asked this on Tuesday about the defensive metrics, and his defensive metrics, I don't know how much stock you guys put in those. They're clearly down, though. Defensive runs saved on Fangraphs, outs above average on Baseball Savant, way down the past couple of years, commits a lot of errors. Why not move him to left field or center field and put Stott over to shortstop? Why not do something like that, Jim?
Well, I'm actually in favor of something like that, at least investigating something like that, putting him in left field, give you more flexibility this offseason to maybe make moves, other moves in the infield. But why do I think they're not moving him? I think he received a semi-guarantee that it was going to be the shortstop for the Philadelphia Phillies. Glamour position. Mm-hmm. I think if he was going to play a position other than shortstop, he probably would have taken the San Diego Padres offer, which was better than the Phillies. So, 2 years into a contract, I just, you recruited him, you pitched him, you signed him to be your shortstop, and 2 years into a, 11-year contract, You're going to move him. I think other free agents see that and they think, the Phillies went back on their word. So I think it still could happen down the road, but I guess now is not the right time because I think, like I said, they recruited him as a shortstop. They pitched him as a shortstop. They told him he was going to be their shortstop, and their word means something. It's important. It's important to him. And like I said, semi-promise, and they don't want to go back on it 2 years into a deal. That's my take.
I agree with everything you said, Jim. I think that's probably the reason. There's no question that, that he probably believes, and he's maybe right, that if he ends up continuing to do the things offensively that he's done as a shortstop, then he's got a chance to be a Hall of Famer, and maybe not the same impact if he's playing in the outfield or another position that's not a quote unquote glamour position. I believe that the best team that they could field probably doesn't have him at short. I think he's sort of a below average shortstop. He's not somebody you can depend on as much as a guy like Jimmy Rollins or Frankie Lindor or someone like that. I don't think necessarily he is a liability, but he is also not a plus there. So I honestly think that for him, if he ever gets to that point, that I really felt like, and I'll go back to my own personal experience. I really struggled in the infield because I had, problems mentally being able to make certain plays. And when I was moved out to the outfield at Stanford, I relaxed a lot and I just played, and I allowed my offense to be a much, much better, which was really my forte, with my offense to be a much better piece of the puzzle. So at some point you hope that he, looks in the mirror and says to himself, hey, this is best for me. It's best for the team. And they make that move, which does give the team a little bit more flexibility and allow Todd to go ahead and play short and what have you. But I mean, I can understand why he would not move right now. And it's sort of unfortunate, but this is why Dave Dombrowski signed him. This is why John Middleton signed him. They signed him because they needed that bat, and he's a dynamic offensive player, and has a tremendous amount of athleticism, which is important to him. But I honestly think that at some point, just like Harper, and you would think that since Harper moved to first base, that you would think that one of his buddies would sort of follow in suit if they wanted him to. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years into an 11-year deal, that's a tough spot. I mean, I know fans don't want to hear that; they just want to, go down and tell them you're moving. I don't care. Screw your feelings. But I think it could happen at some point down the road. I mean, there's some Hall of Famers that have moved positions in the middle of their careers. I mean, for me growing up, Robin Yount was a great shortstop, and then it was an injury situation, but he moved to center field. He won MVP in center field. So
Craig Biggio.
I mean, yeah, a lot of Hall of Famers have moved from the infield to the outfield or vice versa. So let's see. How about Evan Neese? How do you feel about adding a player like Anthony Santander? Feels like a realistic corner outfield free agent target. Do you think adding complementary players around the edges is what is enough to put this team over the top? Feels hard to trust this core after the last 2 Octobers. I mean, Santander had, he had like 40 plus home runs, 44 home runs this season, but he's also not a high on base guy. A lot of power. Everybody speaks very highly of him, but I don't know. It feels like if you're trying to put the ball in play more, hit the ball the opposite field more, work the count more, chase less, he would make a lot of sense. But it seems like he kind of would be more the same. No,
I like him. He produces. He puts up big power numbers, but I agree with you. It might not exactly be what they are looking for. I don't know how much left field does he play. He plays right field, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, they look pretty set. It depends on some of the moves they make. I mean, I think it's going to be like a domino effect if they subtract somebody from the everyday 9, which they very well could. But the question brought up complementary pieces and around the edges pieces. I actually think those type of players can make a difference and could make a difference on this team because I know it's hard to believe in this core after the last 2 Octobers, but they still have good track records. They're still good players. It's just about playing well in October. And we've seen this team play well for, long stretches, play poor for long stretches. It's about getting hot at the right time, playing well at the right time, producing at the right time. I still think they have a pretty good roster.
I think they have a great roster. I do believe in what Dave Dombrowski said. I mean, it's as good a talented a roster as there is. But I do think that they could add some people with a little bit better strike zone awareness as far as the offense is concerned. Obviously, they're going to have to rebuild that bullpen. But as far as the offense, we just stay on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. I mean, I think it'd be great to be able to bring in 1 or 2 guys who really do really make it a point to be able to command the strike zone and to be able to swing at the right pitches and make the proper outs and have the right approach. Because I do think if you sit there and watch what's going on in other series right now, particularly the Dodgers, it's a team that reminds me of the New York Yankees in the 90s where they don't swing out of the zone. They put a ton of pressure on the other team. They create pressure by getting on base and walking. They create pressure by making the pitcher throw strikes and make mistakes. And I think that's why they're having so much success against the Mets right now, because the Mets don't throw the ball over the plate. And that's why it was such a great matchup for the Mets to face the Phillies, because the Phillies swing out of the zone and the Mets work out of the zone. So anyway, I just feel like it'd be really important to get a veteran presence guy who has that sort of approach and mentality, because I do think it can rub off on other players. if they see others having that kind of success doing that and they make it a real focus and the guys are committed to doing it, then they can have more success that way.
Ruben, this is an interesting question. Paul Paz on, I think this was on X. I'd like to know what Ruben thinks is actually happening behind closed doors. There's what Dave says in public and a whole other approach in private, I would guess. What is it? Will he try to take the pressure off the team or the opposite? So, like, how did you go into these things? The post-mortem and we're asking you questions. What are you going to do? You want to be as honest as you can, but you don't want to tip your hand.
It's a delicate thing because you want to be honest and you don't want to be fake to the fans. At the same time, you also, you want to hold some powder, so to speak. I mean, you want to be able to do your business without tipping your hand. I mean, you're not going to sit there and say, well, I'm going to take this guy and we're going to move this guy. We need to get better in this. I think it's important for a variety of reasons. And most importantly, to do your job well and to put the organization in the best position to be able to improve. You sort of have to be a little bit more clandestine than people want. Everybody wants everybody be super forthright and to give all the information all the time. But I mean, imagine how would wars be won if people, these are our plans. We're going to attack from the north. We'll make you think we're going to attack from the south, but we're attacking from the north. Right. I think it just makes sense for Dave to try to go about his business. This is basically how he works. To go about his business in a way where he doesn't have to tip his hand. It doesn't devalue some of his own assets. There's sort of a there's an intricate way to kind of go about this, and it's not about necessarily throwing all your stuff out there. They do have it. I think he said all the right things and the true things. They have a really good club. I think that he knows, and I think he sort of acknowledged that there's improvements to be made. Does he necessarily have to have star players? No, he doesn't, because they have the talent. They have it. But they do need to tweak the talent. And I think every team needs to have change. Every organization, every industry in the world, it's okay to make change. I mean, that's a model that most leaders have. And especially if you haven't had success, I don't believe that they're going to run this thing back to the same players and same people. I do believe that there's going to be some change.
He's always operated that way. He's always been very close to the vest with his public comments about his strategy, be it at the trade deadline or be it at the offseason, and with several clubs as well.
I mean, if you're the Chicago White Sox right now, you're basically saying, hey, we have to make wholesale changes because it's true, because they're terrible. And so, things have to, I mean, that's as obvious as can be. That said, in a situation like the Phillies, where they already have really, really good players in place, there's just certain things that have to be done. He doesn't necessarily have to say what the plan is.
Yeah, I mean,
sometimes I would say you have to look at a guy's history, and this year is probably different, but he likes stars. He likes star players, and I don't see them getting so. I just want to. We've talked about that ad nauseum, but he likes stars and he likes power arms. So there's those areas you can, be it in the bullpen or rotation, you can kind of look at.
Yeah, it was funny though. A lot of people were upset with the comments that were made on Tuesday, and it's like, well, he's not going to come out and say, listen, we don't think Brandon Marsh is an everyday player, so we need to do something about that, and we don't think this guy can play either, so we're going to do something about it. Because then if they can't make that move, then you're bringing this guy into camp going, man, my president of baseball ops just said I stink, and now I got to come out and play every day.
Let's think about the evaluation too. That he devalues the player. I mean, he's not going to go out there and devalue the player. Hey, I think we got really good players.
They know they need more production out of that outfield. They need more production out of those two spots, center and left field. I would give some defense in center field, but I want some pop out there in left field, man. I want some production.
This is a question off of Instagram. D. Cornell, do you think the Johan Rojas experiment is over? I don't know if it's over necessarily, but I think, going into last offseason, I believe they basically said we'd like to see Johan Rojas win that job. It was very clear that they wanted him to be the guy, to be the center fielder this season. And this going into this offseason, I think it's different. They're sending him to Clearwater to work the entire winter with their hitting guys to maybe get him to be a little bit better offensively. But I think they go into this offseason and next spring very open-minded about who the center fielder will be.
Yeah, I would look to upgrade offensively, but he could. I don't think the experiment is over. It just maybe changes. The look of it changes a little bit because you still have an obligation to try to develop him as a player. He's got a lot of talent. He can speed, chase down anything. He can throw. He might be a nice guy to have on your bench with this, he could pinch run, and you could use him as a late defensive replacement. And when you really need to lock down a lead, I think in any position out there. So I still think there's a lot of upside on this. If you want to call it an experiment, they have an obligation, like I said, to develop the kid and see what happens. He's still young. He's still very raw.
He's young. He's controllable. He's cheap. And he has talent. And I think they're doing the right thing. They're trying to exhaust every possibility for him to improve as a player, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And I think that they're doing that in the hopes that, okay, let's see what we have when we bring in the spring training. Was there a real improvement? Mm-hmm. Was the work that he has done in Clearwater, did it make him a better player? Is he going to be a better player? I think this is sort of a make or break spring for him, because they're going to decide whether this guy whether there was real adjustments made, whether a real change actually happened, whether he can really become a everyday player in center field on both sides of the baseball. And I think you're right, Jim. I think the organization owes itself, a chance to do that, and they're pulling out every stop to do that, much like what they're trying to do with Taijuan Walker.
Does he do anything for you as an extra outfielder that can, help you defensively late in games, maybe pinch run, or
of course?
Or does he need to go? If you still think there's upside there, maybe he needs to go play every day. But on a championship caliber team, where every run matters, maybe you just say we're gonna use him as that fifth guy, and he's gonna,
That may be all he is. That may be his great value. I mean, he has great value doing that. Who was it? Dyson, who did that for years and years and years.
Yeah. Go out and save me a run. Go out and save me a run in a big series.
And go steal a couple of bases and score me a run. I mean, that may be all he is, and that's okay. And there's value in that. I mean, there's 26 guys. Hey, somebody goes down, I can plug that guy in center field.
I mean, I
know I can plug him in there for 50 games.
And I also feel like if you find a big bat, like Jim said, corner outfield bat in left field, you can live with, a little bit more Johan Rojas in center field. I think a big issue this year was that they weren't getting anything in left really, and they weren't getting anything in center. And the first month and a half of the season, they weren't getting much in right. Now right field kind of corrected itself, but if you get a big bat, a consistent offensive production in left, you can, go with maybe like a Marsh Rojas combo in center field.
We like anybody?
But you can't compromise. You can't compromise the deep. Remember we were bitching and complaining about the defense a couple of years back? I mean, the ball's in the air a lot, guys. And Castellanos hasn't gotten any faster. He's gotten better. His routes are better. He makes plays. No disrespect to him, because he's made himself as good an outfielder as he could possibly make himself. But if you cannot catch the baseball in the outfield, you're screwed. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, you want a big bat, you want whatever in left field. That son of a gun's going to have to make a play.
Right.
He's got to play defense, and we cannot forget about that, because you might as well put Kyle Shwarber back out there in left field if you're going to do that, and that's not the right thing to do for this team.
Bo, this is an Instagram question. Bo9292. What other free agent or what free agent would you like the Phillies to sign? Does anybody come to mind for you guys? Tyler.
Go ahead, Todd.
I was going to say, well, Tyler O'Neill is a guy that could play maybe a corner spot for the Phillies, but he's a right-handed bat, has a lot of pop, gets on base got on base a lot this year, but he also swings and misses a lot.
Gets hurt a lot.
But we're talking about we're talking about complimentary guys potentially. Could he be a complimentary guy in left field? He's going to come cheaper than, Santander or Teoscar Hernandez or some of these other big jerks in profile, probably, right? So maybe he comes a little bit cheaper. He's complimentary-ish.
Yes, he's a guy I liked.
Swings and misses a lot, though, so that would drive people bananas potentially.
He's a guy I liked at this trade deadline, and I think we talked about him. Maybe they were looking for a late game arm, a late bullpen arm, and I even think I threw out the possibility of a Tyler O'Neill, Kenley Jansen package, but the Red Sox got hot and they didn't move those guys. But I have always liked Tyler O'Neill. His finish, second half in 21, was extraordinary. You're right. There's some warts, and especially the health history. But when he's healthy and making contact, he can really produce. So, I would definitely be looking at. That's a name I would definitely investigate because I like the production. But I would also be looking at the ball. I know Blake Trinan is coming off injuries, but he's had a hell of a year. Yeah. He's over that shoulder issue. He might be a guy I look at. I would look at Jack Flaherty. We always talk about pitching, and Clay Holmes in the bullpen. All those names would have some appeal to me.
What about you, Ruben? Got anybody that gets
excited? I like Alex Bregman.
Okay.
I think he's a good baseball player. He knows how to win. I've seen him since he was a kid in LSU, and I know that he is a baseball rat. He wants to be a really good player, and he's one of those guys you actually can play him at second, third, or short. I think he can be a Gold Glove level player at either one of those positions. I know he is playing third base for Houston for years, but I know they can play second or short or wherever, and so I think he's a sort of a plug and play player, and I think he's just I think he's just a good player.
Is he fit?
Great name. So you're saying then you would move Bohm for? They better get something good back for Bohm, but it's definitely a strategy you have to think about.
Yeah, it would be something, but I mean, you got to try to have you got to somehow, some way fill. And again, this is where you have to sort of be creative. And again, I'm not advocating necessarily to move Alec Bohm, but if maybe Alec Bohm goes to first and Harper goes to left. I don't know. I think that I think you have to be open-minded and creative. I think about what Pat Gillick does and what he did and how he operated. And I know it's difficult to ask certain players to do these things. And shoot, Harper ended up having, possibly Gold Glove level first base year. But I mean, I think you got to be open-minded, and I think that's Dave Dombrowski is going to try to do. I don't know that that's the solution. I just think that it's important for guys to be thinking this way and for the Phillies to be thinking this way because there aren't that many options out there.
Right.
There really aren't, and they're not going to trade assets that they have. The Aiden Millers of the world they're going to wait to see if that kid can be a major league player for them. The Crawfords of the world, the Justin Crawfords of the world, they're going to wait to see if that guy can really compete as a center fielder every day because somebody's going to have to come cheap and controllable.
Right. And they need to – they've had a sinkhole in center field for years. I mean, you're hoping that Justin Crawford's the guy for 8 or 10 years. But, I mean, that's a really creative type of thing, moving Harper to the outfield, Bohm across the diamond, and adding a player like Bregman. I mean, you're right. That is like a Pat Gillick thinking out of the box type of thing. And I'm sure – they'll think about that on the executive level. A big question is, would Harper move back to the outfield? What do we think?
No, and he may not, but who knows? Todd?
No, I was going to say, I think more realistic would be keeping Harper at first. And then if you were going to sign Bregman, go after Bregman, trade Bohm, and maybe use that piece to get value for that piece. He's under control for the next 2 years. Maybe you find yourself a corner outfielder. Maybe you find yourself a big arm in the outfield or somebody in the rotation, whatever. But I think that would be a more realistic move than move. I think Bryce really loves playing first base. He's above average at first base. He's a Gold Glove finalist at first base. So we talk about defense. It'd be tough to kind of remove him. And Alec Bohm is not as good of a defensive first baseman as I think Bryce Harper is. So, but that would be interesting, and that would be something that would maybe get the fans' juices flowing. Not that you make moves to do that for that purpose, but it is fun. It is fun to do something like that. Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. Let's see. Speaking of prospects, Squat Philly Sports.
Squat
Philly Sports on X. Is Painter on the opening day roster? How far away is Aiden Miller and Justin Crawford?
Crawford's probably 6 months away because he's probably closer than Miller. He's a high school kid, man. He might come quick. And people are saying, well, other teams just throw their guys up there. No, they don't all do that.
Even if Aiden Miller gets here in 2026, that's coming quick. This kid was in high school a year and a half ago.
People are talking about Jackson Churio. I mean, he came from a totally different background, man. He was signed when he was 16 years old.
Yeah. And
he's been playing professional baseball for 2 or 3 years prior to getting to the big leagues. And he's a special talent. Can guys do it? Did the Robin Younts of the world do it? Yes. But he's a Hall of Famer.
Harper, Trout.
Okay. These are Hall of Fame players. Okay.
Right.
Now, will Aiden Miller be a Hall of Famer? God bless. I hope he is. But it happens. Those are 3 players out of 20,000. Okay. So, or 50,000 or however many major league players there's been in the world. So, everybody cool your jets, man.
What is funny though is for years and years and years, especially after Harper and Trout came up, Jim, how many times do you get a tweet saying the Phillies never promoting their players when they're young? I'm like, do they have anybody in the system that's even remotely close to Bryce Harper or Mike?
That's how Jim got me fired because I wouldn't bring Nola up after 4 starts in the minors.
That's right.
I told him the fans didn't know what they're talking about.
Is that
banged? Gone. Ruben gone.
Those 4 starts made a big difference.
I mean, come on.
So, yeah, I think even if, like I said, if Miller gets here in 26, that's still coming very young and early and whatever you want to call it. And Painter, that's, what's he going to be, like 100 innings next year? And to me, I'm taking him really slow. He's not going to be on the opening day roster.
They're too important.
No way.
And I'm taking him really slow. And then I'm working him in toward the second half and trying to use most of his innings when I'm playing big games, and I'm hoping he doesn't feel like he has to be the savior. I'm hoping he continues his development, but I'm hoping he shows his prowess and is a contributor behind a pretty good foursome above him. So I hope he comes in the second half and like I said, doesn't feel like he has to be the savior and just go out and pitch well for the Philadelphia Phillies and make the second half of next year a real good foundation building block for 26 when you can start to take the harness off. And then 27, you can really turn him loose and he's still a young man.
Dave,
you should be in player development, Jim. You should be. How come people somebody hasn't hired you?
I've been asking that question to myself for years. I think I asked you that question.
Yes, you have. You've asked me that question. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think you did appoint me as a scout of one area, but
I just one area, just one, not here, but right in here.
Right. Well, Dave Dombrowski did say on Tuesday, he says Justin Crawford is coming fast, but he's not expecting him to be, in the mix come opening day. He said Aiden Miller, he does not think will be in play next year. I don't know how much I believe. I mean, I know what you guys are saying, but he did finish the season in Reading. If he starts off the season like gangbusters, if he plays great in AAA, Dave Dombrowski is not someone that's going to go, well, yeah, we're going to keep him down. Dave likes to promote young players. It's possible. And then Andrew Painter, he basically said the same thing. He's like, what are we going to do? We're not going to, we start him in the season with the big leagues. He's not going to be pitching for us in September, October, when we wait on him to pitch for us in September and October. So I think mid-season is
with Miller.
I'll give you a perfect example of how Dave Dombrowski operates. We had Andrew Benintendi in the minor leagues with the Boston Red Sox, and we had Jackie Bradley in center, and we had Mookie Betts in right. And there was a possibility that they could get somebody like a Beltran to play left field at the time. And there was a discussion, a meeting amongst the staff and the coaches and he basically said, like, do we think that Benintendi can help this major league team? Can he be an asset to the team? And basically some of the scouts and some of the people that had seen him and some of his, people said, yeah, we think he can. So what's the delta between Beltran and a guy like Benintendi? And it didn't sound like it was a whole lot. So they said, you know what? Let's bring Benintendi. He's not afraid to bring a guy. He brought him in the middle of a freaking pennant race and with the idea that we wanted to win the World Series. But he doesn't want the beauty of what the Phillies have right now is that they are in a great position to not have guys feel like they have to be the savior, as Jim said, because they already have the superstars on this team. And these superstars actually are really great at welcoming these young players in. So there's no rush to do it. But at the same time, if there's an opportunity to do it and he believes that they're ready to do it, Dave Dombrowski will not hold guys back.
Right. In reference to Aiden Miller, in reference to Justin Crawford, old baseball adage, the player will dictate.
That's right.
Absolutely. They'll let you know.
Absolutely right. Here's a question from John Lindros. Kyle Shwarber is entering his final year. Tremendous contract, tremendous free agent signing. Maybe my favorite Phillies hitter. No way I would extend him on a multi-year deal, but what do you think about his future with the team? Did you guys extend him?
I'd love to get him on a 1-year extension, but I think he's got tread on his tire, and I think he's a good player, a difference-making player on the field and in the clubhouse, and he's going to want more than 1 year, and he owes it to himself to seek more than 1 year, unless he decides, he wants to go year to year. So I think, if you come at him with a 1-year extension, he might just ride it out and say, I think I can get 3 somewhere else or 4 somewhere else. So love to have him. But
is there anybody that you guys would?
I would extend it for 2 more years. I would give him a 2-year because I know he can DH. I think he brings more to the table to this team and it's hard. It's immeasurable to me. You can't really measure this, but I think he brings a lot more to this team the way it's set up than just his ability to produce offensively as a DH. I think he's got a couple of intangibles as a leader on the team, as a clubhouse person, as someone who has the pedigree to have won. I think he brings a lot of different things to the table that I would, in a way, pay for an extra year to have him than not have him. And
you think you would take it 2 right now?
I don't know that he will, but I would explore it.
Yeah, that'd be, his impact in that clubhouse is tremendous.
Significant. It's significant.
I know sometimes people poo-poo that stuff and they say,
it means something.
I think it's huge. This is Instagram. Pluribus Unum NJ wants to know, how feasible is it to implement a more patient batting approach with players in the lineup? We've talked about this a little bit, but it's certainly that's kind of what the Phillies are saying, right? Like, we're going to work on this in the offseason. I mentioned it the other day that I feel like every spring, every GM, manager, and hitting coach says, we're going to work on getting these guys to hit the ball the opposite way and get that runner in from third base with less than 2 outs. That's going to be our focus this spring. And then the season starts and it's like, what happened to that focus? They're all swinging out of their shoes again. So how realistic is it, guys, to get these guys to do what they say they are going to do or want to do next season?
It's going to be tough because the style of hitting is ingrained in a lot of these guys. They're veteran guys. We've talked about it time and time again that when the game speeds up and the guy is bearing down on you 60 feet 6 inches, the adrenaline's flying and the fans are roaring and the pressure's on, sometimes you're going to go back to what you are. The area I do think they can improve that selectivity, contact, getting on base, whatever the hell you want to call it, is with Bryson Stott. I think it can improve there. I think he's got the aptitude to be more the player he was in 23 than he was in 24. I think he needs to make those changes and those adjustments and make his goal getting on first base and make his goal line drive approach and being ready for the fastball and being on top of the fastball. So I think he can make improvements there. And I think, in a lineup, one guy can make a difference. So maybe they can inch it forward if he's better.
That makes a lot of sense, because I also got a lot of questions. There may be like 2 or 3 questions on Stephen Kwan, and could the Phillies go out and get him to, that would be amazing. But I also feel like Bryson Stott kind of can be that guy get the bat on the ball, hit the ball the opposite field, make a lot of contact, a high batting average guy. I feel like he can be that guy. He took a step back this year, but man, if he can do what he did the first 4.5, 5 months of the 2023 season, now you have your leadoff hitter. Now you can move Kyle Shwarber down if you wanted to do that. So he solves a lot of problems for you.
But I don't think it's just one player, and I don't think we should put it on his shoulders. I think I think
he's the guy that can do it. I think he's the guy that can improve. I'm not sure the other guys can.
Yeah. See, I have an opposite thought about this because I've seen guys make adjustments over time. I've seen, really these are supreme athletes, right? A guy like Trey Turner is a supreme athlete. I've been watching him since he played at NC State. This guy can do a lot of things. And I know there's people talk about, they don't have it in their DNA to be able to do this. Well, Kyle Shwarber made a major change.
Yeah.
He became a pretty damn good hitter. All of a sudden, he raises his average 50 points. So he made it a real difficult change in his approach to get to where he was this year as a productive player. Why can't Trey Turner do that? I think it's a commitment that the player himself wants to have. And I think he's a pretty cerebral guy. I mean, they talk to Turner a lot. I mean, they talk a lot in the cage. You see some of the things that have happened over the year. I would hope that he looked, that the guy like Trey Turner and other guys, and I think Castellanos has done this. I think, these guys do think about hitting and work with, the mental approach and the approach. I'm hopeful that a guy like Trey Turner goes back and says, you know what? I have to be more selective, and I got to give myself a chance to have more success by staying in the strike zone better and make a real commitment to doing that. If the player is not committed to doing that, it's not going to happen. But hopefully he can, and he has the ability to do it. I think it's not like the guy doesn't hit a breaking ball. He can hit a breaking ball.
Mm-hmm.
He can hit a mistake. I couldn't hit a breaking ball. I didn't have the ability to do it. Those guys can. And so I believe that if they want to truly commit to getting this done, I think that one, all they do is watch the Dodgers this postseason, and two, and how much success they can have, and two, understand that these are the things that really did take us out of our game and took us out of the playoffs this year. And I want to be committed to doing this. And if they can, and they do, I think that there could be an improvement internally.
I agree with you. Turner is vital, and he's extremely talented. If he and Stott were to set like private goals, that you set these private goals going into a season, if Trey Turner set the private goal, I want to win a batting title. And if Bryson Stott set the private goal, I want to hit 300. I mean, I think those would really serve them well.
Yeah, it was a little bit like I think about when Charlie Mann used to tell Jim Thome, you know what? If you just hit 300, all the other numbers will be ridiculous. Yeah. Guess what? He's a Hall of Famer because of it. Because he actually was a good hitter. He stayed in the strike zone, didn't strike. He struck out a lot, but he didn't strike out like
he got on base a lot.
He got on base a lot.
Got on base a lot.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Look at Ryan Howard's first 3 years, and he was hitting 300. I mean, amazing. He won an MVP.
And then he really struggled when he started working outside the zone.
Right.
And at the end of his career, trying to do too much, and he, that really hurt him.
A couple more on Instagram. What does the offseason look like for Todd, Jim, and Ruben? I'm sure you get. Well, Ruben, you didn't get this when you were GMing. Because everybody knew that you were busy constructing the team, but Jim, I know
chilled. I was just
you just chilled, put your feet up on the desk, watch Sports Center in the office.
Let it happen.
But I mean, a lot of people, Jim, asked us, like, so like, what do you do in the winter now?
I just I watch Beat Bobby Flay on TV, the Food Network.
Catch up on your. I know Beat Bobby Flay. No, but. I do watch I do catch up on a lot of my TV. You know what show I finished up the last season of? I think I mentioned this show to you guys, Slow Horses on Apple TV. You guys watch Slow Horses? It's a spy show, British spy show. Gary Oldman's in it. It is fantastic. If you have Apple TV, I'm telling you, you like spy stuff, spy shows.
I'm going to watch the Flyers. I'm going to watch Mishkov and Luchenko, and I'm going to watch John Tortorella's game press conference. I love it.
I feel like
there's some excitement with that. There's some excitement with the Flyers. That's kind of cool. I like to see that. And I really think that Briere and others and Jonesy are doing a really cool job of bringing back the old Flyers, man, the old Flyer spirit. I think it's a cool thing. I'll be doing that and playing a lot of golf. I think they have a plan.
They got a plan, and they're sticking to it, just like you did with Aaron Nola, Ruben. You know,
and you know that Aaron Nola guy ends up having a pretty good career.
Yeah,
you were right. You had a plan, and you were right.
And sometimes, yeah, those plans, they work out. You know, you get killed at the time for not promoting somebody. You know, but sometimes you let a guy develop a little bit and they end up having a great career. Like here's a question, Ruben. Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. A lot of people said they should have called him up a year or two earlier than that. Do you think they would have had the same amount of success if you had called them up earlier, or the Phillies had called them up earlier? I know Chase got promoted when Ed was in charge, but that was, you know what I mean? Like
possibly, but I mean,
maybe they don't have the same career if they get called up early. Maybe they lose their confidence. Maybe something happens. I don't know.
I think Jim has said it. I think the player will let you know. I think, and my dad used to tell me this all the time. When it's time for you to be in the big leagues, you'll be in the big leagues. And generally it's, you know, everybody thinks you just have to throw guys up there and just let them sink or swim, you know, like O'Neal Cruz and, you know, those kind of guys. Well, you know, that may stunt his development overall. Now they're putting him in the freaking outfield. I mean, could he have developed another year or so offensively and then been thrown into the outfield and center field a year ago or 2 years ago? I don't know. Would that have made him a better player? Maybe. I just think that you know, it's not linear for everybody. Everybody handles things differently. I think Chase Utley probably would have handled and somehow figured it out. Ryan Howard, maybe a little different, may have taken a little bit longer. He's a power hitter who's still fine-tuning his ability to make, you know, consistent contact. Who knows? Everybody's different.
Last one is from our buddy Sixto, Ruben.
Uh-oh.
He likes to needle you.
Let him go.
He wants to know, what is more fixable, the Phillies' offensive approach or your Wi-Fi connection at home?
Great call. I got extensions all over my house.
For people that listen to the show only, Ruben is coming crystal clear. But if you watch us on YouTube, Ruben's connection the past couple episodes been a little spotty. There was one shot where you were taking a sip of coffee for about 2.5 minutes while you were completing your thought. I was like, this guy's a ventriloquist.
How do I do it? I think the Phillies are way more fixable than my Wi-Fi. I've got some issues. It's an older place. You know, we're trying to work through some walls with my extensions. I got to hook onto the right, to the right one. But yeah, that's way more. But the funny thing about Mr. Sixto Lascano is that I saw him the other day. I didn't even recognize him. So, bang.
Did you know
he means so much? He means so much to me that I didn't even recognize it, dude.
Ruben, do you know the original Sixto Lascano?
Very well. I was his bat boy.
That's right. We were.
It was 1981. I think he played for the Phillies, and I was his bat boy. Great guy, really nice guy. God bless him. Did he pass?
I don't know. No, I don't think so. But
I don't think so. Why do I think he? I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing him with Bo Diaz, but
I remember him from his Brewers days. Yeah, I remember.
Sixto Lascano, man, he had that little impact. Like he cut really tight in here with his, and then wow. He had some pop for a little dude. He wasn't a big guy.
He had some good. I mean, he had some.
Really I could tell you all the stances of every player because I sat there right there, kneeled down next to him on that batter circle and just watched every guy. Pete Rose, Mike Schmidt, Larry Bow. I could do shake and bake McBride with the crossover. Gary Maddox with the spread. I mean, Bob Boone. I could do them all.
Sixto had a real nice career. He had 100 RBIs one year with the Brewers in '79. Yeah, you know what? That's one thing. Adam McCalvey covers the Brewers for us at MLB.com. He had a really cool story mid-season about how you just don't see players have cool batting stances anymore. You know, you don't have the Rod Carew, you don't have the Cecil Cooper, guys that lean way back, right? You don't have. Gary Sheffield with the bat waggle. Ben Ogilvy had
Tettleton had this,
like Brian. Was it Brian Downing who was like super wide open, right? way, way, way open, almost facing the, you don't have the, Craig Counsell is a total.
Craig Counsell was awesome.
Total weirdo swing.
I mean, it's weird, man. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah, it's more.
Give me some swagger.
Yeah. Some crazy swings. You can't really.
They all have to get to the same spot eventually,
right.
But yeah.
Stan Musial with the narrow legs and and remember Tony Bautista, Ruben, with the
Tony Bautista used to be wide open and then dip.
But he got there.
down, but at some point he had to get there. Otherwise, if he didn't get there, he ain't got no chance.
Right? Yeah.
It's a cookie.
Chef.
But going.
How about Julio Franco? His bat. You could see his bat head.
I love the story. Your dad told me a story. So he signed Julio Franco and Juan Samuel on the same day, and they bring Julio Franco. Ruben Sr. told me this story. They bring them over to the States, and they bring Julio Franco, I guess, to Clearwater. And Granny Hamner was the hitting instructor, right? And Ruben Sr. Franco's doing this, and Ruben Sr. tells Granny Hamner, Granny, don't touch him. and he won a batting title, right, in the American League, right?
Don't mess with him.
And he played till he was 68.
Just let him.
Till he was
let him be.
Exactly right.
He went or 70.
Yeah. It's a great spot to end. Guys, that was fun. Thanks for all the questions. We probably have about 30 more that we just couldn't get to. We can't keep you on here all day. But Ruben, you're in Secaucus. Enjoy your stint at MLB Network this afternoon. Jim,
thanks, brother.
Jim in an undisclosed location.
Ooh.
Shady Jim.
I'm in the Bat Cave. The Bat Cave. I was playing the Batcast.
With some bat people.
We'll talk to you guys later.
Smell you later, boys.
Smell you, Jim.
The Philly Show is brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. Subscribe to The Philly Show on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like us, give us a review. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and Threads. Find Ruben's analysis before, during, and after Phillies games on NBC Sports Philadelphia, on the Sports Radio 94 WIP Morning Show, and MLB Network. Find Jim at allphly.com. Find me at MLB.com, the Phillies Beat newsletter, and MLB Network.